The Power of Gratefulness in Healing and Weight Loss, Part 4. This is our final video in this topic that we're covering. Love the topic of gratefulness and how it relates from a spiritual standpoint into a physical standpoint of our actual health and weight loss. Talking very practically today. We've hit 4 big ideas in this series, and this last video is going to be touching on the actual practical steps we can take and the tools and the strategies to become a grateful person, not just having it as a list or making a list or having a journal. That's a part of it maybe, but it's not so much about the list, it's about the life. How do you build that actually in your life and experience the results in a physical manifestation of healing and weight loss? Hello everyone, the power of gratefulness in healing and weight loss. I'm Karen Harrison with Eureka Holistic Nutrition, and this is the final video in a 4-part series on gratefulness and how it impacts actually physically symptoms, and even our weight loss efforts can be sabotaged if we don't have gratefulness built into who we are as a person. So we covered 4 big ideas, and this video is going to hit the final big idea that's very practical, give you tools on how to build gratefulness and experience the results in your physical health and weight loss. So we covered in the first 3 videos. If you haven't seen those, go check those out. But gratitude isn't a list, it's a life. What does that mean? Gratitude is the root of all healing, actually a root cause of healing. And we really see weight loss as a healing process. Healing is a process of letting go, of releasing, and that is exactly what weight loss is. It's actually releasing excess that we don't need. So how gratefulness resets metabolism, rebuilds gut health, and balances hormones. That was video 3. And then today in video 4, we're going to hit how to build more of the practical steps of becoming in our person a grateful life and experience the results of gratitude that we've talked about in those first 3 videos. So those core 4 big ideas we've hit in this series, and excited to jump into this last one. A lot of really good, helpful information that you can implement today. Scripture, man, the scripture talks so much about gratefulness and thankfulness as a life. Enter his courts, enter his gates with thanksgiving, and be thankful. They were not thankful in Romans 1. This group that Paul is referring to, their foolish hearts were darkened, and this whole cascade that we talked about of spiritual stressors started to take place in Romans 1. And it started with not being thankful. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Wrap all of your supplication, all of your wanting with thanksgiving. And in Colossians, let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which you are called, and be thankful. And then 1 Thessalonians, in everything, not for, but in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. And there's multiple other verses, just a quick snapshot. So gratefulness, thankfulness is a part of your whole relationship with yourself and with God as your Father. Paul highlights that in the epistles. Now, let's turn our attention for a moment on spiritual stressors. We talk about spiritual stressors and how gratefulness can be an antidote and a healing balm to these. So the spiritual stressors we're focused on in our coaching program have to deal with past, present, and future. Past focused spiritual stressors are those that really take hold of our lives that are related to anger and bitterness and guilt. Things that happened to us in the past, things that we experienced in the past, mistakes we've made, broken relationships, things that we've decided now looking back were not the right move, and things that we can control, but then there's a lot of it that we probably can't. That other people imposed on us, other situations happened to us. So those past focused spiritual stressors that can develop, the antidote is forgiveness. We're not going to focus on forgiveness as a topic today, but wanted you to see the context of what spiritual stressors mean and the anecdotes for each of them. We walk through people in our coaching program through a process of forgiveness, and it is a process. but it's a very simple and very healing process of forgetting. How do they literally let go of these 3 physical stressors that could very, very easily be a part of why they can't release weight long term. And then present focused spiritual stressors are envy, lust, and greed. Those are the ones we focused on in this topic, in this series of videos, because they deal directly with the gratefulness. Envy and lust and greed affect us physically if they go on year over year, and how does gratefulness heal those and help us release those spiritual stressors? And then we'll talk about that today. And then the future-focused one is the fear, worry, and anxiety. Fear about future, worry about future, what if, anxiety about future. All of that is ahead of us, what's coming, and that is resolved. Those spiritual stressors are released, turn to strength through faith. Whole nother set of tools, whole nother set of strategies, whole nother set of coaching that goes into the faith side of the equation. So spiritual stressors that we're talking about, we're focused on present. Present means my life right now, what I do and don't have, needs that aren't met. That's the envy, lust, and greed. And so gratefulness is the focus, is the healing anecdote for that. So how is gratefulness a part of that? Well, gratefulness is really faith wrapped up in worship and action. Gratefulness is really faith wrapped up in worship and action. So it's an expression of faith. Gratefulness is an expression of faith. And it can be a result of forgiveness. So both the past and the future focused stressors play into the present focused stressor of gratefulness. So gratefulness is really faith wrapped up in worship and in action. It's a life. It's a relationship. How we relate to others, how we relate to God, how we relate to our lives. Gratefulness is really that faith-based perspective, saying my needs are met, here's what I do have, and here's how I express that in worship and action. So faith is believing God's promises, God's purposes, and God's person. When we believe His promises to us, His purposes for us, and the person He is to us, that is the key to a life of gratitude. So the tie between faith and gratitude is wrapped up in those 3 things. Promises are true, His purposes for us are well intended, and His person to us is real. So what do you do about it? How do you build a life of gratitude? Well, I want to set a really quick context to answer that question. And this is a way that we work with clients in all of the stressors that we talk through in the program. We have physical stressors, time management responsibilities, physical stressors of illness, injury, and pain. And we talk through emotional stressors, mental and emotional, relational, that are can be tied to a lot of times the spiritual. So the spiritual stressors we talk through in phase 3 and really get to the root of any of those that really need to be turned to strengths. And this is how we structure that process and give people tools. And they're through these 5 A's. So there's different tools, different concepts, different mindsets that we talk through on each of these 5 A's that help people turn whatever stressor in whatever category to strength. And the first thing that we want to put any stressor through, whether it's a responsibility of caregiving, whether it's a spiritual stressor of envy, or whether it's a mental emotional stressor, whatever the stressor is, can it be avoided? Can it possibly be removed? Do you have to actually deal with it? And if you don't have to, why put a stressor in your life that you don't have to deal with? If you can avoid it, always avoid a stressor. We'll have plenty of good stress. We'll have plenty of other stressors we can't avoid. So any stress that we can avoid, that's in our control, that we can get out of our life, we can say no to this or that, we can not have the relational boundary with a person that is a super stress drain on our lives. We can definitely avoid anger and some of the physical stressors. So, and then how do you do that? So that's a whole nother set of tools. But can it be avoided? If it can be avoided, do it. If you can't avoid it, the next level, the next A, can it be altered? Can you actually change the stressor itself? Can the caregiving weight and stress be altered itself? Can you hire somebody else to come in such amount of time? How can the stressor itself, can you change your schedule around it? Can the stressor itself be altered? If you can't, or you altered it enough, you can't avoid it, you've altered as much as you can you adjust your own perspective? And part of gratefulness is adjusting my own perspective as seeing the situation, seeing the stressor from a different point of view, and a more positive point of view, and a more grateful point of view, that this is something in my life for a reason. So adjusting your own perspective, can I change, or even just from a practical standpoint, can I change my schedule to accommodate this stressor better? Can I change the method and how I'm approaching this, how I'm managing it? So all of that avoiding you can't do. So can you alter it? If you've altered it enough that you possibly can you adjust? If you've adjusted your own schedule, perspective, attitude enough, then the next 5 of the 5 A's is accepting. Can we stop fighting against this, complaining about it, telling everybody, just emotionally pushing back on it, just fighting against it? You know exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as you accept it, you're working with it. You're allowing it to be a part of your life. You're allowing it to cause a little bit of discomfort, and you're okay with that. There's a level of acceptance that gratitude can definitely bring to any stressor. When you implement gratefulness in your life, you start to accept stressors that you can't void, that you can't alter, and that you've adjusted as much as you can. You're able to accept them. And then the 5th A, that's really the powerhouse and the magic, is appreciate. When you take all the stress through this system and go through to the appreciation point, gratitude says this stressor is actually benefiting me. And here's the ways it is. And here's where the list comes in. You make an actual list of the benefits that you're gaining from having this stressor in your life. And your mindset, your emotions, even your actions and approach to this stressor start to change. You build new neural pathways in your brain around this stressor. You shift your emotional energy around this stressor when you start to appreciate it in your life, and recognizing that by faith, God's promise to me, God's purposes for me, and God's person will see me through this stressor, and that appreciation starts to turn that specific stressor to strength. That's what we coach across in our weight loss coaching program. We help people work through their stressors, whatever those are, through these 5 A's, and give them tools to do whatever step they are on along this path. So how does that look like? What does that mean in context with gratefulness? What are the tools? Well, these are not the only tools, but these are the 4 main tools we use, and we help people really implement a grateful life. Powerful gratefulness strategies. Number 1, we won't get into all the nitty-gritty of the CTERB model or flywheel, but studies have actually shown that gratefulness can activate the hypothalamus gland and regulate body mechanics that are controlled by the hypothalamus, and sleep is one of them. Stress response is another one. So hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, that's kind of your HPA axis. It's your stress response, and that impedes or actually enhances our ability to lose weight. So when we put our emotional and mental energies into gratefulness, that changes this flywheel. So the flywheel, let me describe it for you. A circumstance happens. You can put a stressor in that first C spot. It could be anything. Somebody said something to you. It could be a relationship that's an ongoing stressor in your life. It could be a goal that you have. Something that's factual, that actually either happened or is happening to you, or is a clear fact stressor. It's not just an opinion fact. Based on that stressor or circumstance, you have all kinds of thoughts around it, right? Your brain wants to tell you your own self-talk and your own thoughts that surround that stressor. Based on those thoughts, you have certain emotions that come with it that are tied directly to that mental process. And those emotions are what really trigger the action, and this is how you behave, this is how you respond, this is what you do or don't do. And those actions create the result. And that result is either a broken relationship, reconciled relationship, or any other type of positive or negative result. And those results build the belief. And the next time that same stressor or circumstance happens, you go through the same flywheel over and over again. The same general thoughts happen, the same emotions are evoked, the same actions taking place, the results the same, and you're building this system and pattern of belief around a certain stressor. So you can see how that could be super negative and spiraling, or we can change that flywheel at the thought level to change that whole cascade. Different emotions, now you're doing different actions. The results are different, maybe not right away, but a lot of times right away. And then your belief starts to shift and change. But all of that is triggered at the thought level. When you take gratefulness through that flywheel tool, let's say whatever stressor it is, envy, lust, greed, or certain specific situations or people trigger envy, lust, greed, then your thought process, that's how you break this cycle. Your thoughts have to be grateful. You change your thought from, oh, I wish I was, or I wish I had, or I definitely can't do, or whatever the negative thought that you normally have when that stressor is coming up. You're shifting those thoughts to gratefulness. Man, I am so glad that I actually have the opportunity to. Or without the stressor, I would not see so-and-so's maturity or love for me, or whatever grateful thought you can plug in there. That's going to change your emotion, action, result, and belief. So at the thought level, we teach this in our coaching program. We walk people how to do this specific to what they're dealing with. It's a very powerful way to renew your mind, but the thoughts themselves are based in gratefulness, and you're listing thankful thoughts in all kinds of creative ways. We have clients that have done this so creatively. How do you change your thought pattern and your thinking around a specific stressor to be grateful, to be rooted in gratefulness? Then the next thing is praise targeting. This is a really cool tool. This tool we teach is prayer targeting and praise targeting. Praise targeting is more geared toward who God is, His promises, His purpose, what we talked about on the slide previous. Those three things. Anytime a stressor triggers you, anytime you feel lust coming on, anytime you feel greed kind of overtaking your thoughts and emotions, anytime, you're praising and you want to praise maybe one or two main things, maybe a promise that God's showed you or one of His purposes to be true in your life, or who He is as a person, you're praising Him, your focus is on Him as soon as you're triggered by this stressor. Every time. So when that stressor comes along, Satan knows, his kingdom knows you're going to be praying and you're going to be praising. So as soon as you get stressed, the praise target happens. And that's through your connection, relationship with God. That's an awesome, really quick, easy, in the moment. And as soon as you get in the habit of doing that, your stress gets turned to praise. Then talk about the 5 A's, just appreciate the actual benefits list. Man, this is really important, especially if you're going through a very chronic, stressful time, more of a crisis time in your life, or if you have been through a crisis time and you're coming out of it, maybe a high stress time. This is very powerful to make a list of what are the benefits of that specific stress. What are the benefits of that crisis that you received that you would not have received if it wasn't for that stressor? When you go through and you read, you probably will be surprised at how many benefits you can come up with. Keep asking yourself, what else? What else? What else have I gained from going through this? What else have I gained? Have I seen others gain? What are the whole benefit picture? And anytime that stressor gets triggered again or something similar happens and you want to say, oh, I do not want to go back there. You will never go back there when you keep remembering the benefits of that stressor. Go back to that list of benefits and say, man, God, you brought me through this, and this is why, this is part of the reason that this stressor was in my life so I could gain and I could benefit. So that list of benefits related to a specific stressor. And then the last one, this is really cool, is ministry action. Actually taking action and kindness towards others, even when you're in the middle of a crisis or you're going through a very stressful time in your life, taking that action and acting out of a giving, grateful heart, like doing something, is a very healing power to it. That ministry action is rooted in gratefulness. So building a grateful life starts at your thoughts, number one. starts at your prayer and praise. Number 2, starts at benefits and seeing stress as a tool of strength in your life. And then seeing how you can give back and pour into other people's lives are really the measure of how gratefulness can heal you. Those are 4 powerful tools. And don't forget, join our community if you haven't already. Master Health and Weight, very personalized plan for you. It's a metabolic approach. We talked about the 3 keys, metabolic controls, and just the mindset and coaching that you get in this program. Not only really help heal physically, but help people release a lot of spiritual and emotional stressors that could be tied to the physical. And if you haven't taken our free course, jump in eurekaholisticnutrition.com on Start Here. It's a free course that highlights our metabolic approach so you understand what the process would look like to work with us. If you're tired of battling your weight on your own, jump into this free course, see if our program is for you, and then if it is, go to our website and apply now, and a coach will reach out to you for a free discovery call to get started. All right, we will see you next time.